Hey there everyone, welcome to another Fire Emblem Heroes skill guide. I originally had this video as part of my Sleeper Skills series, but that wouldn't really be fair to our subject, since today we're talking about Ploy skills, and they are far from underused. Ploys are indirect debuffs that emanate from the carrier in all four cardinal directions: up, down, left, and right. At the start of each turn, if an enemy unit occupies a square on any of those paths, they have to make a stat check. If they pass, nothing happens. If they fail, they get debuffed. The difficulty of the check is based on the stats of the Ploy-wielding unit. Panic Ploy checks against current HP. All of the others check against resistance. Attack, Speed, Defense, and Resistance Ploy reduce the associated enemy stat by 5. Panic Ploy converts out-of-combat buffs like Hones or Fortifies into penalties, trivializing cavalry and flyer teams most of the time. What makes Ploys so powerful is the combination of range, opportunity cost, and potency. There are other powerful debuffs, like Dark Breath or Smoke skills for example, but they often require units to occupy threatened squares or engage in combat before taking effect. Ploys work at any range. In other words, Ploy-carrying units can contribute to fights without fighting, sometimes from all the way across the map. The fact that Ploys take up the C slot is also crucial. B and A skills are usually more build critical than C skills. Ploys don't stack with themselves, but they do stack with other different Ploys, so you can double up on debuffs by running a Ploy in the C slot and another Ploy in the Sacred Seal. Ploys are awesome, but they do have important drawbacks. If the opponent can pass the check, or you just can't get your Ploy unit into position, then your Ploy has done nothing and is a wasted skill. To Ploy reliably, therefore, you want to have very high resistance for normal Ploys, or very high HP for Panic Ploy. The stat requirement can also make Ploys weaker when you're fighting at a merge disadvantage, as the extra stat points may push some of your enemies out of Ploy range. Positioning for Ploys can be tricky, but is manageable thanks to pre-battle setup and movement assist skills. Don't forget, however, that your Ploys only trigger at the start of your player phase, so you may need to anticipate enemy movement. Let's look at some builds. As always, these aren't the only builds that make use of Ploy skills. There are just a few that I really like. Up first we have a fun gimmick build, Double Ploy Fear. This build utilizes Fear's excellent res to trigger 2 Ploys of your choice. After these debuffs are applied, she can become quite the respectable duelist. Almost all of Fear's damage will come from special activations, so we give her a Slaying Edge or Wodao for her weapon. The Refine is flexible. Resistance increases her Ploy range, attack increases her damage, and speed increases her doubling potential. Defense helps with physical bulk, but it might not be enough to save her against bulky auto-doubling armor units. For the A skill, there are plenty of solid choices. Distant Counter and Steady Breath are great for the enemy phase, as always, but Fear can make great use out of Fury, Flashing Blade, Steady Blow, Sturdy Blow, or Swift Sparrow too. The B skill is pretty open as well, but the frontrunners are Swordbreaker, Vantage, Desperation, or Wrath. Finally, both the C and Sacred Seal are Ploy skills. Mix and match as you see fit, although Def Ploy should be one of them for sure. I think Fear can show off the power of Ploys in a fun and interesting way, but she is hindered by the dominance of high resistance, nearly unployable armor units like Winter Lissa or Winter Tharja. Fear is available at 3 stars, and can ploy a ton of other melee units, including most melee swords and dragons, depending on natures, merges, and refinery picks. Next we have a dual pick, the Ploy Mage tag team of Lute and Arvis. These units, thanks to their personal weapons, have carved out a Ploy-based niche all for themselves. Plus, they're almost fully built right away, and require very little investment. Arvis comes with Valflame, a personal weapon that triggers like a Ploy and reduces both attack and resistance on affected targets. He also has Def Ploy by default, and a phenomenal personal skill in the Recover Ring. All told, Arvis only needs an A skill, Seal, and a new special. For the A skill, I recommend Fury, as the Recover Ring offsets the self-damage and he wants all of the stats anyway. For his special, I recommend Iceberg or Glacies. Finally, for the Seal, I recommend plus Resistance for extra Ploy range, since he can't be merged and his weapon can't be refined yet. It may seem like overkill, but without the boost from the Seal, he can struggle to Ploy merge-advantaged opponents. Despite appearances, Arvis is a great team player and has saved me multiple times in Arena Assault. He's the prime example of the mixed offensive support utility that Ploys can bring to the table. Lute is very similar, but overall more powerful thanks to her superior weapon, access to merges, and the potential for IVs. While Arvis is a phenomenal offensive support, Lute is just an all-around great unit, with some support utility as a side bonus. Her personal tome comes with a baked-in speed ploy, and gives her free speed to boot. Her kit also includes res ploy by default. Both of these fit her perfectly, and combine to give her some serious damage output and doubling potential. For her weapon, we keep her default tome. For the special, we give her Iceberg. In the A slot, we can run Fury as an always good pick, or branch out into skills like Flashing Blade, Heavy Blade, or Swift Sparrow for a narrower focus. The B slot is flexible, but Lute is happy to run Desperation. In the C slot, we keep Res Ploy, and in the Seal slot, we double up with Attack Ploy. This build lets Lute duel almost anything and come out ahead. If for some reason she can't engage, she'll still be able to throw out monstrous debuffs from the back line. Last but not least, we have Sheena, the ultimate in defensive technology. Sheena has some of the best mixed bulk in the game, and now that we live in a world where enemy phase melee threats demand enemy phase answers, Sheena excels. She has more than enough resistance to Ploy, letting her function as a defensive anchor and frontline support for mixed movement teams. For her weapon, we give her a Slaying Axe, refined with defense or resistance depending on your Sheena's nature and personal preference. Like Fear earlier, most of Sheena's damage output comes from special triggers, so be sure to give her something powerful like Ignis, Glacies, or Aether. In the A slot, the choice is between Distant Counter for all-purpose utility, or one of Close Defense and Steady Breath for melee survivability. While Close Defense and Steady Breath have higher upsides against heavily merged opponents, Distant Counter just makes Sheena much easier to use in practice. All other things being equal, I like running Distant Counter. For the B skill, we give her Quick Riposte or Vengeful Fighter to enable guaranteed enemy phase special triggers. Note that the special charge rate increase from Steady Breath and Vengeful Fighter do not stack if you were thinking about running them together. In the C slot, we can run Defense Ploy for additional damage, Speed Ploy for team support, or Attack Ploy for additional survivability. If your Sheena is Summoner supported, she'll have more than enough HP to Panic Ploy too. For the Seal, you can again double up on Ploy effects. My preference is a mix of Attack Ploy and Panic Ploy for maximum tankiness while disarming Emblem teams. Now, this video is about Ploys, but in Sheena's case, the smoke skills are also worth a mention. She has more than enough bulk to survive the first round of combat, so triggering smoke effects is no big deal. Overall, Ploys are great. If you've been following my channel for a while, you'll know that I like dynamic skills that are conditionally powerful. The Ploy design space is wide open, and we've already seen Gravity Ploy on Loki's weapon, so who knows what kind of Ploys players might have access to in the future. Ploys can be tricky to use perfectly, but they're pretty easy to use well enough. In the end, Ploys are a skill type that makes your stats matter for more than dealing damage or taking hits on the chin, and I like that a lot. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like or subscribing. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at DireThunderYT or check the description below. As always, I hope to see you next time. Take care.